The air on Mustafar was thick with the stench of sulfur and betrayal. Lava rivers snaked across the desolate landscape, painting the sky with a hellish glow. Anakin Skywalker, now cloaked in the suffocating embrace of Darth Vader, stood on a precarious platform, his yellow eyes burning with a hatred that consumed all light. Across from him, Obi-Wan Kenobi, his former master, stood resolute, a beacon of the Jedi Order's fading hope. "I have failed you, Anakin." Obi-Wan's voice was heavy with sorrow, cutting through the roar of the volcanic eruptions. Vader snarled, his mechanical hand clenching his lightsaber. "You underestimate my power. You were always holding me back, Master. The Jedi are weak, bound by their archaic rules. Palpatine understands true power." Their lightsabers clashed, a furious dance of blue and red against the fiery backdrop. Obi-Wan fought with the defensive grace of a Jedi Master, parrying Vader's aggressive, rage-fueled strikes. But Vader was no longer the Anakin he knew. The DarkSide had amplified his raw power, stripping away the restraint and discipline that once guided his blade. Each swing was imbued with a furious intent to destroy, to dominate. Obi-Wan, his heart aching with every parry, sought an opening, a weakness in the torrent of Vader's assault. He tried to appeal to the boy he once mentored, the Chosen One. "Anakin, please, don't do this. Come back to the light." Vader laughed, a chilling, joyless sound. "The light is a lie, Master. It offers only limitations. The dark side offers absolute control, the power to save those I love." Their duel led them across the treacherous terrain, leaping from one unstable platform to another, the heat searing their skin. Obi-Wan, ever the strategist, attempted to use the environment to his advantage, forcing Vader into awkward positions. But Vader's connection to the Force, now twisted and amplified by the dark side, seemed to make him impervious to the dangers of Mustafar. He moved with a speed. Had Obi-Wan struggled to match her, found themselves in a marrow-crumbling river of a churning river, molten rock. Obi-Wan, seeing an opportunity, leaped to a higher ground, establishing the classic high ground advantage. "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground." Vader, blinded by his arrogance and the dark side's influence, scoffed. "You underestimate my power." He gathered the Force, a surge of dark energy radiating from him, and with a guttural roar, he launched himself forward, not aiming for Obi-Wan, but for the very structure beneath his feet. Obi-Wan's eyes widened in horror. Vader didn't jump at him. He jumped through the unstable platform. The ground beneath Obi-Wan's feet gave way. As he stumbled, trying to regain his balance, Vader used the Force to propel himself upwards from the collapsing debris, a blur of red lightsaber. Before Obi-Wan could react, Vader's blade arced, not severing limbs, but piercing through his chest. The blue light of Obi-Wan's saber flickered and died as he gasped, his eyes wide with shock and a profound sadness. "Anakin, the Force," he whispered, before his body consumed by the DarkSide's power, crumbled and fell into the molten abyss below. Vader stood panting, his chest heaving, the red glow of his saber reflecting in his eyes. He had done it. He had defeated his master. A chilling sense of triumph, cold and hollow, filled him. There was no pain, no regret, only the absolute certainty of his power. Soon, Palpatine's shuttle descended, landing amidst the chaos. The Emperor emerged, a sinister smile gracing his lips. "Lord Vader," he purred, his voice oozing with satisfaction. "You have done well." The Jedi are broken. The last of them, a minor inconvenience, has been dealt with. Vader merely nodded, his gaze fixed on the churning lava. He felt no elation, only a profound emptiness. He had gained immense power, but at what cost? The answer, he knew, was everything. With Obi-Wan gone, there was no one to rescue Padme. She died, not knowing of Anakin's victory, her heart broken, her hope extinguished. The twins, Luke and Leia, were never separated, never hidden. They were found by the Emperor's agents, their force sensitivity a beacon in the darkness. Under Palpatine's tutelage, the twins were raised in the ways of the DarkSide, twisted into instruments of the Empire. Luke, a formidable warrior, became a ruthless enforcer, his compassion replaced by cold efficiency. Leia, a cunning strategist, commanded legions, her fiery spirit now a tool for oppression. Vader, the Emperor's loyal enforcer, watched his children grow, their eyes burning with the same yellow intensity that now haunted his own. He was the most powerful being in the galaxy, second only to the Emperor. But the galaxy was a desolate place, ruled by fear and tyranny. The spark of rebellion never truly ignited. Without Obi-Wan's guidance, without the hope embodied by Luke and Leia's hidden existence, the Empire's grip tightened, crushing all dissent. Years passed. The Jedi were a forgotten myth, their temples razed, their teachings erased. Vader, a figure of absolute terror, enforced the Emperor's will with an iron fist. He had saved no one. He had merely traded one form of slavery for another. A slave to his own power and to the Dark Master who had promised him everything and given him only an empty throne of shadows. The galaxy, forever scarred by the lava fields of Mustafar, remained shrouded in an eternal night. Finally, the desperate, swirling dance of lightsabers led them to a perilous, crumbling walkway, suspended precariously over a raging river of molten rock. Obi-Wan Kenobi, ever the strategist, saw a fleeting opportunity. With a surge of his remaining strength, he executed a powerful leap, landing on a slightly higher, more stable section of the walkway. He turned, his blue blade held defensively, and declared, his voice heavy with a mix of sorrow and warning, "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. But Anakin Skywalker, now fully consumed by the malevolent persona of Darth Vader, was beyond reason or traditional Jedi tactics. His yellow eyes, burning with unholy fire, reflected the infernal landscape. He scoffed, a chilling, joyless sound that spoke of utter contempt. You underestimate my power. This wasn't merely a boast. It was a declaration of his twisted new understanding of the Force. Instead of leaping directly at Obi-Wan, Vader channeled the raw, destructive power of the dark side. A palpable surge of dark energy radiated from him, and with a guttural roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of Mustafar, he launched himself forward. His target was not Obi-Wan's form, but the very structure beneath his former master's feet. Obi-Wan's eyes widened in a moment of horrified realization. This
audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Of horrified realization. This was unprecedented move, a brutal, direct assault on the environment itself. The ground beneath him groaned, then gave way with a sickening crack, sending him stumbling. As the platform disintegrated, Vader, with a terrifying display of DarkSide power, used the collapsing debris as a springboard, propelling himself upwards in a blur of crimson light. Before Obi-Wan could regain his footing, before he could even raise his lightsaber in defense, Vader's blade arced with brutal efficiency. It was a clean, decisive strike, piercing directly through Obi-Wan's chest. The blue light of Obi-Wan's lightsaber flickered erratically, then died, clattering uselessly onto the crumbling rock. He gasped, a final pained breath escaping his lips. "Anakin, the Force," he whispered, his eyes wide with a profound sadness that transcended the pain. Then, his body, utterly consumed by the dark side's overwhelming power, dissolved into dust, falling into the churning molten abyss below. Finally, the relentless swirling duel brought them to a narrow, crumbling walkway. Suspended precariously above a churning river of molten rock, Obi-Wan Kenobi, ever the master of tactical positioning, saw his chance. With a powerful leap, he ascended to a higher, more stable section of the walkway, securing the classic high ground advantage that had served him so well in countless battles. His voice, though weary, carried a note of finality. "It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground." Darth Vader, however, was no longer the apprentice who would heed such warnings. His mind, consumed by the dark side's corrosive influence, was a maelstrom of arrogance and unbridled power. He scoffed, a sound devoid power of humor. "You underestimate my power." He didn't just speak the words. He embodied them. Gathering the Force, a surge of raw, dark energy pulsed from his very being. With a guttural roar that echoed across the volcanic landscape, he launched himself forward. But for the very structure beneath his former master's feet. Obi-Wan's eyes wide non-horror. He anticipated jump at him. He jumped through the unstable platform. The ground beneath Obi-Wan's boots gave way with a sickening crack. As he stumbled, desperately trying to regain his balance on the collapsing debris, Vader used the Force to propel himself upwards from the chaos, a blur of red lightsaber against the fiery sky. Before Obi-Wan could even register the shift in tactics, before he could bring his own blade to bear, Vader's lightsaber arced with terrifying speed. It was a precise, devastating strike, piercing directly through Obi-Wan's chest, not severing limbs as he had done to others, by striking at the very core of his being. The vibrant blue light of Obi-Wan's saber flickered once, then died, falling from his grasp. He gasped, a ragged, pained sound, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and profound, heart-breaking sadness. "Anakin, the Force," he whispered, his voice barely audible above the roar of Mustafar.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
His body, utterly consumed by the DarkSide's overwhelming power, crumbled into dust and fell, disappearing into the molten abyss below. Soon after Obi-Wan Kenobi's tragic fall into the fiery depths of Mustafar, a chilling quiet descended upon the volcanic landscape, broken only by the ceaseless roar of the lava. Darth Vader stood panting, his chest heaving, the crimson glow of his lightsaber reflecting in his yellow, unblinking eyes. He had done it. He had defeated his master. A profound sense of triumph, cold and hollow, filled him, devoid of the satisfaction he once imagined. There was no pain, no regret, only the absolute, terrifying certainty of his newfound power. Just as the last echoes of the duel faded, a sleek, black Imperial shuttle descended from the smoke-choked sky, its landing gear hissing as it touched down amidst the chaos. The ramp lowered slowly, revealing the cloaked, sinister form of Emperor Palpatine. A cruel, knowing smile graced his ancient lips, a silent testament to his ultimate victory. He surveyed the desolate scene, his gaze lingering for a moment on the churning lava where Obi-Wan had vanished, before settling on his new, formidable apprentice. "Lord Vader," Palpatine purred, his voice a sibilant whisper that oozed with satisfaction, cutting through the ambient roar of the planet. "You have done well, exceedingly well." He extended a hand, a gesture of dark approval. "The Jedi are broken, their last bastion of hope, a minor inconvenience, has been dealt with by your own hand." Vader merely nodded, his gaze fixed on the churning molten rock, a silent testament to the horrific price of his power. He felt no elation, no true joy, only a profound emptiness that gnawed at the edges of his triumph. He had gained immense power, yes, but at what immeasurable cost? The answer, he knew, was everything he once held dear. Palpatine's presence, however, cemented the new reality. With Obi-Wan gone, there was no one left to challenge the Emperor's authority, no one to offer a glimmer of hope to a galaxy now firmly under the iron fist of the Galactic Empire. The dark side had won, and its victory was absolute. With Obi-Wan Kenobi, tragically gone, consumed by the fiery maw of Mustafar, the last thread of hope for Padme Amidala's rescue was severed. Unbeknownst to her, the very man she loved, the father of her unborn children, had just achieved a dark, hollow victory that sealed her fate. On the medical frigate, far from the searing heat of the volcanic...
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
Frigate, far from the searing heat of the volcanic planet, Padme's condition rapidly deteriorated. The medical droids buzzed around her, their diagnostic tools beeping frantically. but they could find no physical ailment. Her body was failing, not from injury or disease, but from a profound, crushing despair. She lay on the sterile bed, her once vibrant eyes now clouded with a deep, unyielding sorrow. Her hand instinctively went to her swollen belly, a silent comfort in the face of overwhelming grief. Her thoughts were consumed by Anakin. Where was he? Why hadn't he come for her? The last she had seen of him, he was consumed by a chilling darkness, a terrifying stranger in the form of her beloved husband. She had felt his betrayal, a wound deeper than any physical pain, but she had clung to a desperate sliver of hope that he could still be saved, that the Anakin she knew still existed beneath the monstrous facade. But there was no Obi-Wan to bring her news, no whispered assurances that her children would be safe, no plan for her escape or recovery. The absence of her trusted friend and protector left a gaping void. Her heart, already fractured by Anakin's descent, simply could not bear the weight of his perceived abandonment and the crushing reality of his transformation. Each breath became a struggle, each beat of her heart a painful echo of her shattered dreams. The medical droids, helpless against a spirit that had simply given up, could only record the fading life signs. Her final moments were spent in a quiet agony, a silent yearning for the man who was lost to her, a desperate wish for a future that would never be. Padme Amidala died, her last thoughts undoubtedly of Anakin, her heart broken beyond repair, completely unaware of his dark triumph on Mustafar, or the twin lives she carried within her. Now orphaned and vulnerable in a galaxy rapidly falling into shadow, her hope, the very essence of her being, had simply extinguished. With Obi-Wan Kenobi gone and Padme Amidala's life extinguished, the galaxy's last hope, the twin infants Luke and Leia, were left utterly vulnerable. In the original timeline, they would have been separated, hidden away on distant worlds, their force sensitivity masked and their existence a secret from the burgeoning Empire. But in this grim reality, with no Obi-Wan to orchestrate their safety, no one to foresee the profound danger they represented to Palpatine's reign, their powerful connection to the Force remained an unshielded beacon in Ran. The growing darkness, even as the Emperor consolidated his power and Darth Vader enforced his will, the Force itself hummed with the latent potential of the Skywalker twins. It was a subtle vibration at first, a ripple in the cosmic energy, but one that the Emperor, ever attuned to the Force's currents, could not ignore. His agents, trained in the dark arts of detection, were dispatched across the galaxy, their mission to seek out any lingering Force-sensitive individuals who might pose a threat. It wasn't long before their sensors, augmented by DarkSide rituals and ancient Sith techniques, homed in on the powerful, untrained Force signatures emanating from the very planet where Padme had given her last breath. The medical frigate, now a floating tomb for Padme, became the unwitting cradle for the Empire's future instruments. Imperial probes, then stormtroopers, swarmed the vessel. There was no resistance, no one to protect the newborns. The sight of the two infants, radiating raw Force potential, brought a chilling smile to the faces of the Emperor's most loyal agents. They were not just children, they were a prize beyond measure, a direct link to the very power that had created the Chosen One. Their existence was immediately reported to Emperor Palpatine, who, upon hearing the news, felt a surge of dark delight. The twins, Luke and Leia.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
Delight. The twins, Luke and Leia, were swiftly taken, not to be hidden, not to be protected, but to be brought directly before their new, sinister master. Their destiny, once a path to light and balance, was now irrevocably twisted, bound to the very darkness their father had embraced. Under Emperor Palpatine's chilling gaze, the twin infants, Luke and Leia, were not merely taken, they were claimed. Their immense force sensitivity, once a beacon of hope, became a tool for the Dark Lord's grand design. Palpatine saw in them not children, but raw, untainted potential, perfect vessels to be molded into the ultimate instruments of his tyrannical will. He would not make the same mistakes he perceived in Anakin Skywalker's upbringing. These children would know only the dark side. Their training began almost immediately, a brutal and relentless indoctrination into the ways of the Sith. They were isolated from any whisper of the light, their every interaction carefully controlled by the Emperor's most loyal servants. Instead of the compassionate teachings of the Jedi, they were immersed in lessons of fear, anger, and absolute power. Palpatine himself often oversaw their progress, his sibilant voice guiding them through dark force techniques, encouraging their aggression and praising their ruthlessness. Luke, with his innate connection to the Force and his father's raw talent, quickly became a formidable warrior. His lightsaber training was rigorous, focusing on aggressive, overwhelming strikes. Compassion was systematically purged from his heart, replaced by cold, efficient precision. He learned to channel his emotion, not into empathy-aiding force, cushes, and he became a ruthless enforcer, his presence striking terror into the hearts of any who dared to defy the Empire, his yellow eyes mirroring the darkness within. Leia, equally powerful but with a sharper intellect and a cunning mind, was groomed as a strategist and commander. Her fiery spirit, once destined for rebellion, was twisted into a tool for oppression. She mastered the art of manipulation, using the Force to influence minds and sow discord among the Empire's enemies. Her leadership was absolute, her decisions cold and calculated, driven by a desire for control that rivaled Palpatine's own. She commanded legions, her presence inspiring fear and unquestioning obedience. Together, Luke and Leia were a terrifying duo, the perfect embodiment of the Empire's might. They were the children of the Chosen One, yet they knew nothing of the light, nothing of their true heritage. They were simply the Emperor's apprentices, their destiny irrevocable, the galaxy.
This audio was created with podcastle.ai.
With Obi-Wan Kenobi vanquished and the Skywalker twins, Luke and Leia, now firmly in Emperor Palpatine's grasp, the galaxy plunged into an era of unchallenged darkness. the very spark of rebellion, which in another timeline would have been ignited by the hope embodied in the hidden children of Anakin Skywalker, never truly caught fire. There were no whispers of a Jedi Master training a new hope on a desert planet, no daring rescue missions led by a courageous princess. The crucial elements that would have galvanized a resistance simply did not exist. Palpatine, with Darth Vader by his side and his new dark apprentices, Luke and Leia, being molded into instruments of his will, faced no significant opposition. The few remaining Jedi, scattered and hunted, were systematically rooted out and eliminated. Without a rallying cry, without a symbol of defiance, the disparate pockets of discontent across the galaxy remained just that, isolated pockets. Any nascent attempts at rebellion were swiftly and brutally crushed by the Empire's ever-expanding military might, often led by the terrifying efficiency of the young dark Jedi, Luke and Leia. Worlds that might have harbored nascent rebel cells were instead brought firmly under Imperial control. Resources were plundered, populations subjugated, and dissent was met with overwhelming force. Propaganda flooded the HoloNet, painting the Jedi as traitors and the Empire as the sole bringer of order and stability. Fear became the primary currency of governance, enforced by legions of stormtroopers and the chilling presence of Darth Vader and his dark offspring. The Galactic Empire's rule became absolute, its tendrils reaching into every corner of the known galaxy. There was no new hope to inspire the downtrodden, no secret alliance forming in the shadows. The sheer weight of Imperial power, coupled with the absence of any significant Force-sensitive opposition, allowed Palpatine to consolidate his tyrannical reign without interruption. The galaxy became a vast, silent dominion, its people living under a perpetual shadow, their dreams of freedom extinguished by the unyielding grip of tyranny.
This audio was created with Podcastle.ai.
By the unyielding grip of tyranny, Darth Vader stood as the Emperor's loyal enforcer, a figure of absolute terror across the galaxy. His power was immense, second only to Palpatine himself. He commanded fleets, crushed rebellions before they could even truly begin, and wielded the Force with a destructive precision that few could match. He had achieved the dominance he craved, the strength he believed necessary to save those he loved. Yet, despite this overwhelming might and his supreme position, a profound, hollow emptiness gnawed at his core. The chilling sense of triumph he felt on Mustafar, cold and fleeting, had long since dissipated. In its place was a constant, gnawing void. He had promised himself power to prevent loss, to control destiny, but all he had achieved was the destruction of everything he once held dear. Padmé was gone, her life extinguished by a broken heart he had inadvertently caused. His children, Luke and Leia, were not saved from a tyrannical galaxy. They were twisted into the very instruments of that tyranny, their bright Force signatures now corrupted by the dark side he had embraced. He would watch them, his own flesh and blood growing into ruthless enforcers, their eyes burning with the same yellow intensity that haunted his own reflection. There was no joy in their power, no warmth in their presence. They were extensions of Palpatine's will, just as he was. The irony was a bitter poison. He had sought to break free from the perceived limitations of the Jedi, only to become a slave to his own power and to the Dark Master who had promised him everything and given him only an empty throne of shadows. The galaxy, shrouded in an eternal night, offered no solace. Every act of enforcement, every crushed rebellion, every whisper of fear he inspired only deepened the chilling realization of the true cost of his choices. He had gained the galaxy, but lost his soul. The power he wielded was absolute, but it brought no peace, no happiness, only the cold, unyielding weight of his own profound failure. He was the most powerful being, yet the most utterly alone.